Hello, you're welcome to another interesting edition of Your Image. Last week, we talked about labor-related issues and how public relations should be an instrument of resolving some of the problems that emanate from labor organizations. And it was part of the activities marking this year's Labor Day, what you call May Day, and it happens all countries of the world. Nigeria is not an exception. Labor issues and public relations approach in resolving them. My guest on the show also talked about some of the solutions that we should explore, especially on the part of public relations practitioner. I have in the studios Mr. Dare Folarin, a journalist of note, PR practitioners, and of course, one-time Chief Press Secretary to our next governor in Ogun State. You're welcome.
Thank you very much, Moderator.
I also have with me Mr. Akin Okudero, MD, CEO, PR Primus, one-time chairman, NIPR, in Ogun State. He's also a fellow of the Institute. You are welcome this week, sir.
Thank you very much.
Sir, I want to go contemporary this week. Last week, we talked about some of the solutions that populations should find to labor issues, crises that we have experienced in Nigeria. But the ILO, International Labour Organization, is an international body of labor organizations all over the world. But some believe that they don't really have much role to play, especially when there is a crisis in a particular country. What should be the role of ILO vis-a-vis NLC in Nigeria, to be specific, especially when there is crisis in this country?
No, ILO is of great importance to labor issues all over the world. Beyond that, most of the treaties that a country sign into, talking in terms of change that should be effected, talking in terms of a new approach, talking in terms of labor education. There is a body that comes up with appropriate parameters to be used, and they create standards to be followed in the countries. And that's why it is difficult for a particular country that has signed into ILO convention to begin to do differently. It commonizes things, it makes them to be united in action and in procedure. So that's why every year or maybe triennially, they do organize some programs to look into, in fact, they go into research to find out what is happening. Why are welfare issues going the lowest ebb? Beyond that, what can we do to improve labor education? What can we do to probably situate labor leaders within certain environments? And they also take them to train, upgrade, and equip them with international standards, which means that leadership in the ILO, Nigerian can attain it. Anywhere in the world, irrespective of gender, creed,
or religion, ethnicity, or whatever.
They give you a united program where you begin to understand, you begin to grow, and at a particular point in time, then the space will be there for experts in those areas. Even within labor, there are several areas. Talk of industrial labor, talk of industrial relations, talk of politics, politics. Labor politics. Talks of and of course, let me tell you, they are also a veritable organ to train labor leaders on how to cope in the area of governance, in the area of leading in opinion, leading in giving answers to questions that always bother the citizens and the world generally. So it's a world body that treats issues of labor very importantly, and with them, the masses are safe.
All right, with them, the masses are safe. Mr. Dare Folarin, as PR expert, I want to ask this question, and it's still very germane to do discussion. Oftentimes, see, strike action is a very big language all over the world, but in Nigeria, we use it arbitrarily. Before anything happens, we go on strike. Before anything happens, we go on strike. should that strike be used as an instrument of threat to government at all times? And as a PR person, what is your view on this?
Well, strike is a very potent means of getting government to accede to labor demands. But you know, strike is labor's joker, which I think they should use sparingly. You know, the threat of strike is even more effective than the strike itself. By the time you use your joker, by the time you call out your members, you have exhausted your joker. But you know, the threat, hanging there, that if you don't accede to we will do this, that I think is very more effective than the actual strike. So I want a situation where our labor leaders will be strategic. You know, they just use it as a last resort. Okay. Only when they have exhausted all other options. You know, they need to be, they need temperance. They need to just take it easy. You know, before calling out their members on strike, they should try and exhaust all other options.
But it seems government.
Let me quickly comment. Labor leaders are very, very temperate. They are very, very articulate. They are very, very mindful of consequences of strikes, because they know that it jeopardizes revenue generation. It creates war stoppages, and it disorganizes the system. And then there are various other side effects of strikes. So that is why they are well organized. They are organized leaders. They are organized people who will do their things. Before strike occurred, what happened is that governments or management at various organs have denied them maybe listening ears, or maybe not attending to particular issues that were brought to the tables of the management. So, and then the common man or the public will only hear, oh, so organizations are going on strike, so workers are going on strike, because the union leaders and the workers have no other choice. Imagine when welfare matters that are House of Rights were denied. So what do you expect?
Well, it's leading to a reputational, issue for them, for labor. Okay. You know, there is this rush of crisis.
Labor and management.
Because I was about asking you that even government too is not too sensitive to the plight of workers, because they will have given them maybe 7-day strike, 14, 21 days, and before they go on strike, and even on that strike, they will not even.
That's what I'm saying. Labor should design a strategy, to get management and government to accede to their request before using that joker. The strike is the joker. Yeah. Now, what people say, they are going on strike. The ASU is going on strike.
They are overdoing it. That's
leading to a reputational, something for them. As reputational managers, they should try and change their tactics.
Perhaps I need to paint another scenario.
Okay.
We have a situation where a leader that is futuristic, a leader with a vision and a good aspiration, when you see them, you see less crisis, less strikes within that system. Why? Because even before members begin to agitate, they know what is right. They will have even sat down. I remember in those days when we were having issues. That was the beginning of my being in the union. And as a public relations practitioner, then people have the view that, look, it will not be appropriate for a PR role to be in the union. And I told them that we can stop all these strikes. We can stop all these agitations if a PR member is part of the union people, because we already know their feelings. You can begin to inform.
Cascade that to the management.
You can begin to inform and even organize the way they relate. So then, as at that time, there was a programmed plan of relationship. And throughout the tenure of that chief executive, there was none. We know when to take them out on a retreat. and look at the issues that borders on the organization and the welfare of workers. And at that time, you articulate all those things. So, why should strike come? Issues of payment of salary before the end of the month is there. Issue of allocation is there. Issue of allowances is there. So then what will be the issue? So it is when there's a neglect on the part of management to burning issues within the system, that is when, after the labor will have articulated their demands, given notices, and those notices were rebuffed, then they have to resort to strike.
The last
so labor leaders are patient. They are.
But I want a situation people where they will be more patient. You know, they need to be more patient so that they will use it sparingly.
Okay.
You know, too many strikes.
So that when they
too many
so that
strikes.
when they back,
when you hear,
so when they back, government will chief.
Look at all these issues. So I mean, there is need for, you know, although they say that the language that government understands that's the thing, and that's why they're using. But even government and them, like he explained, government also should be proactive and should honor. You know, there should be integrity. Honor the agreement.
Because there's always an agreement.
Yes.
They don't fight on nothing. There's always an agreement, and government will refuse.
Honor your. And if you think the agreement will not favor you, don't sign what will not favor you, for heaven's sake. You know, don't sign what will not favor you. Honor the agreement.
Look at the American example. Joe Biden signs a minimum wage for corporation workers, federal workers. I mean, the people were surprised that they could be elevated from that
level. I was going to ask you that.
So it's about vision. It's about concern for humanity. So when we have our leaders, corporate leaders, who do not have vision, who do not have patience, who do not have that consideration for fellow workers, then that scenario crops up, and you begin to see disharmony. You begin to see disintegration of the workforce. So, to me, we all have a role to play. It's a joint task.
All right, we all have a role to play. It is a joint task on your image, labor issues, and public relations approach in solving those issues. We are going contemporary. Let me go back to Mr. Derek Folarin. I want to go you mentioned the issue of Biden signing increment in worker salary in the United States. But in Nigeria, let's look at what is happening there first. When they protest, government knows that there's a problem there. Yeah. But here, you carry a placard today, the government will not even look at your side. Let's look at the level of protest there and here. In Nigeria, the police will disperse them. They move different directions. But there, even the prime minister or the president, as the case may be, will come to address them, or whoever is in power.
It's because the police are not, some of them are not educated.
In terms of what? In terms of
the protest is the right of the worker. The protest is the right of the citizen. As a citizen, it is your right to protest something that you don't like. You know, how you now carry it out. If you are not violent, in fact, the police force should give you security. The moment you say you give a notice that you want to protest, it is your right, and they should secure you.
For even protesting against government.
Yeah, they should secure you. But here, you know, what they do is they are always, you know, tied to the executive. So they want to protect us. They think you are embarrassing the government, so they go out for you. But that will change, you know, because now with education and everything. So labor leaders also should embark on this education of their stakeholders, police, the workers, government, and all the rest, so that they should know that it is their right. They are not doing anything that is their fundamental human right to protest. So, and it is also universal.
Yes,
it's there in the,
19
yes,
it's
there in the, so it's our right to say you have a right to life, right to education, right to good life, right to, so when people are protesting, it's not usually negative. They are protesting to say, hey, give us what is due to us, and it's part of life. You need to ask for your rights, because even if you are not given, you ask for it, you demand for it. So
ask and it shall be given.
And it shall be given. That's what the good book says. So this is why the thing is doing happen. So we need education on both sides. Like he said, all of us must be educated. The labor leaders should know their rights. Policemen should also know that it is the right of labor to protest. They have that right.
And indirectly, those protesting have been fighting for the place.
For the,
because when they enjoy
when
from it, they
will call it be a benefit from it. So this kind of enlightenment, which is PR, should continue. You know, it doesn't end anywhere. Once there are issues, you tackle them, design strategies to overcome the hurdles, and then we'll all smile.
All right, let me go back to Mr. Akingudo. I think you are more of a labor than a populations today. And I want to ask you this practical question. For years now, Nigerian workers have been agitating for minimum wage. And there is no government that comes into power that will not experience this as a leader. Should it be only minimum wage that should be agitating for? We have other things. We have, you can see the level of security challenge that Nigeria is facing today. Can't we even protest on this? Is it only minimum wage, minimum all the time that the labor should be agitating for?
It is still lack of adequate education that is placing us at this level that we have found ourselves. People should not even be agitating for minimum wage. There are several basic amenities that government must be put to task in delivery. Talking about housing program for citizens. Talk about infrastructural facilities like roads, provision of water, provision of health care. Health insurance should be available for all Nigerians. Look at the issue of technology. In fact, life should be made meaningful to people. And when you have all those things available, look at the energy we are talking about. If there is provision of adequate energy in the country, imagine the sources of that on the artisans.
Even the economy of the country.
On human capital development.
Yes.
So, it is because we are also lacking in proper education that makes us to ask for many things. Minimum wage can't get you anywhere. The one that we earned is already washed away.
Yeah.
You can imagine within 1 month, a bag of cement that cost 3,000 is. I bought a bag of cement for 4,000 naira today. You begin to look at, you are the one who will construct your road by yourself. You are the one who will provide a borehole for yourself. You are the one who will also
power.
do solar. You generate power.
Security.
In fact, we are the lowest ebb of security measures now. And it shouldn't be. So, unions, labor leaders must begin to learn that the workers must be educated to even fight for other things rather than be looking for minimum wage increment. That is the level which government in other climes have been put to task. They have gotten to that level that they begin to say, in fact, an ordinary white man can suffer. And that's why there's always a change in the party, in government. Well, even if your dad is the president and he does something wrong, no white man will want him there tomorrow. But here we are, we introduce politics, it's the son of the soil, we should allow him to do it. And the situation begins to degenerate. Everywhere is collapsing. And yet we still believe that we must encourage corruption. We must encourage nepotism. We must encourage so many other vices that is not making us to grow. So we need a situation where even ordinary citizens need education. They say leaders, we deserve what we get as leaders. Well, the followers too deserve what they get as followers because they have not properly positioned themselves as to who can help them to carry on with their vision. So that is the imbalances that we have found ourselves. And the issue of policies, again, has gone down to the grassroots, to the roots and crannies of the nation. No one is ready to deliver based on principle because the people will wish him away.
Well, you mentioned research earlier on.
Yeah.
Why is it that labor leaders are not searching for good candidates and supporting them? You know, I mean, what I mean by this is that labor can actually go around and look for people who are potential candidates and say, look, come, we can support you. We have the numbers. If you get there, you do X, Y, Z for us, then we'll support you. Maybe labor should begin to look at that, so that once they now come subtly, you know that you know what you are asking for. And if the moment he doesn't, he reneges on the agreement, you throw him out at the next election. So labor should also help us.
It should be part of their responsibility too as stakeholders.
I think so. Part of what is underneath, they can do that underneath, so that we search, look around.
Will you agree with him?
Labor has that role. Communities have that role.
Yeah.
Organizations have that role. In fact, almost all the people in every strata of the society, they have that role to identify a good leader, to identify somebody who can prosper them, to identify somebody who can grow their business, to identify somebody who can make a change within the environment. Corruption is the problem.
Yes, I was about to ask him that question, that many people in Nigeria don't even trust labor leaders again because they believe they sell them. What is your opinion on this? Many workers don't trust them because they believe that when they go there to negotiate, they negotiate for their own personal aggrandizement.
Workers are the enemies of themselves.
How?
It's a funny thing. It's a funny development. We have seen when issues that has brought citizens to the lowest ebb are being fought for. And you see organized labor over time presenting ways and means and ways at which they can fight that war. And there's a proclamation after government has reneged several times, and it had a conference and decided that every worker should stay at home or work to rule. It is this set of workers that will go back and begin to find one excuses to go and work in such offices. So who's to blame? I'm not pleading for the leaders, but I have found over time that even workers themselves are their enemies. There must be that solidarity.
Maybe, there's also this perception.
But they say some people are essential workers.
Yes, there's this perception that some of the people who come out to vie as labor leaders, they are not the best in the workforce. Because he was saying that when he wanted as PRO, he wanted to join them, they are saying, no, PRO, you shouldn't come here.
But
maybe the best in the workforce, should take interest in labor matters. Don't just leave it to the low, people are not to, the best.
To the non-professional.
Yes, maybe the best, maybe it's time we have the best in the civil service and everything, taking interest in labor and actually representing them. Because once you have the quality of the representation, once it's up, it's high scale, it's the achievements.
Okay, because of our time, in a few seconds, what is your take home on this issue?
My take home on this issue?
Yes,
that labor leaders and PR practitioners should continue to, relate and make sure that issues, disputes are settled with dialogue and not actually with force or strikes.
Thank you very much. Mr. Kudari, few seconds because of time.
Well, I like to advise that workers must be supportive of their leaders at all times. When a leader fails, we elect another set of leaders. But at all times, let us have their back.
All right, let us have their back. That is collaboration. There should be symbiotic relationship between workers and government, and coming together to form a synergy would definitely be a good thing for our nation. Once again, because we are still within the week and month of labor workers in Nigeria, we still say happy workers celebration. And until we meet next week, God willing, I say God bless the Federal Republic of Nigeria. See you next week.
you.